This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains spoilers from The Things Gods Break and The Games Gods Play, both by Abigail Owen, with mentions of Doctor Who, The Time Traveler's Wife, and Manacled. For full list, please see show notes.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the fantasy, literature, and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing The Things Gods Break, Book 2 in the Crucible Series by Abigail Owen.
And one thing if you've been following us for some time, we usually say here on ACOFAE podcast is that book 2 is typically a travel book. It's not to shade anything. We just say like, oh, this is typically like a bridging book. And boy, is this a travel book. Not only is it a travel book, it is a time travel book.
Yeah, it is a time travel book, and it is kind of like a POV book. It is a lot of things. It is long. It is very long. Jess and I both read this through audio. It's 20 plus at speed, and that's long. And okay, here's a confession. I don't love time travel. I don't love time travel mostly because I am not a smart person, and it is difficult for me to keep track of everything. Time travel for me is easier in a visual medium. That being said, I did read this I'd say 2.2 times, and I was really able to follow it a lot better on the second time. And before we get into it, though, Jessica Marie, you and I are very familiar with the visual medium of time travel through television shows and movies, but specifically Doctor Who, which is a deep love that you and I both have. And the second time when I was reading this, after I after the author revealed to me during reading why everything was the way that it was. I didn't do shit. I just read the words and figured it out. But I really was reminded of Doctor Who, and specifically, and a little bit of Clara, honestly. A little bit of Clara, the Impossible Girl, because she did it too a little bit. But mostly I was reminded of Rose Tyler and the Bad Wolf.
Rose Tyler, the baddie that you are.
Yeah. And if you know anything about Jessica Marie and Laura Marie, it's the episode where Rose and the Doctor are separated.
I already have chills again. You're talking about the beach.
is something that was very difficult. And on the reread, very specifically when Lyra, our female main character, when the gates are closed and she's in Tartarus, I mean, spoilers, we're talking about this book, she's in Tartarus, and she is like banging on the door, and Hades is like banging on the other side of the door, and she like puts her ear to it. I was like, oh my God. And I immediately went here because very specifically, I mean, spoilers all around here. In Doctor Who with Rose Tyler and the Bad Wolf, the very famous line, the quote is, "I am the Bad Wolf. I create myself. I take the words. I scatter them in time and space, a message to lead myself here." And so she was able to manipulate all of space and time to get her to where she had to be so that she was able to save the Doctor. That's essentially what is going on here. Our main character is going through and manipulating all of time to make sure that events line up exactly the way that they need to, so that the gates to Tartarus can be opened. Because that, and this is also like very Game of Thrones to me, that is like the glaring, obvious plot of like, oh my God, we have to get out of here. We have to open the gates of Tartarus. But the more pressing plot, very Game of Thrones, the more pressing plot is who is glamoring everybody and how are they doing it and maintaining it, and who the fuck is this person to start with? And that was, there's a lot going on in this book, but that plot thread was the most interesting plot thread to me throughout the whole book.
Well, and I think that let's also explain glamoring for anybody who's listening. Glamoring is literally having a veil or light, and the expression like, oh, they had the wool pulled over my eyes. That is what is happening in these glamoring moments. And those who are being glamored, the Greek gods, are essentially being told this fake lie of what has happened in history, specifically with their parents, with the Titans. And it's so interesting because I know both Laura Marie and I, and, we've integrated in some episodes, and definitely in our one of our first episodes where we were introducing each other and ourselves, we've had various hyperfixations, Greek mythology being one of them. And one of the things that we also were discussing before we started recording is that it seems across the board that we really, as like when we do hyperfixations, we touch on the Greek gods and we don't know so much about the Titans. We know that Kronos ate his kids because he felt threatened by them. And then Zeus and company put them all away, and that was that. But Abigail goes ahead and explores this more because there isn't a lot of lore that I'm familiar with. I don't know if you are, Laura, to kind of make it her own. And that's what we're discovering here, because in this, another underlying plot is the Titans aren't the people that we have perceived them to be this entire time. And through Lyra's journey in this book, there are a lot of, I can't even say flashbacks, because she is time traveling, learning more of the true lore and the true history, and gaining her own powers now that she is a god. Book one, spoiler, of gaining different powers to see, oh, she does I can see a glamour over this person. Do you not? And that's what's kind of unveiling itself throughout this book too.
Jess, how'd you do with Time Traveler's Wife?
Oh my goodness. So here's the thing. We talk about the pattern, right? Laura, you've read this 2.25 times, and you said this definitely follows the pattern. And I only read this a lowly once, and my brain is mush, but I remember following our pattern, first 5 chapters. I wasn't even thinking about the pattern when I started reading this because I knew I had to get myself out of that headspace. And I thought, is this a fucking time traveling book? And again, it's not against Abigail. It's because I don't think I'm a smart person. I don't think I could process time traveling on paper. It is also why I've watched The Time Traveler's Wife, loved it. And then I usually, you read the book before the movie. I watch the movie before the book to try to get a grasp on reading the back and forth. And I did not do well. Maybe it would be different if I revisit it now that I have more of a grasp on time traveling. I say in a visual medium, like Laura said. But it's the back and forth. And not only Time Traveler's Wife, and as we know, Doctor Who, because it's just ingrained in multiple seasons, but also, I know listeners, if you've listened to our Donnie Darko episode, I watched that twice and it clicked the second time, but to understand where Donnie Darko's mind and what things were being set up. And that was just a movie that it clicked for me. So imagine a 20+ hour book that I was trying to follow. And again, nothing against Abigail. She's brilliant that she was able to understand what that murder board must have looked like to align everything. And then I have to assume that she knew that that was the direction book 2 was going to go. So her edits going back into book 1 to make sure that is a high level of processing that I don't think I would be capable of. You, Laura?
I agree. I agree, because let's talk about it a bit, because there's two main storylines. I guess two going on. Lyra and Boone are stuck in Tartarus with the Titans and need to get out. In order to get out, they need to open 7 locks. And Lyra is the only person that can do that, because the locks strip anybody that enters them of their powers. And if the Titans enter them, then they are stripped of their powers, and that just means instant death. And there isn't anybody else in there that would open them for them. So they were stuck until Lyra appears there and with Boone and starts to work the locks. That's plot 1. Plot 2 is Lyra time traveling, and Boone, but we don't get Boone's POV here. We get Lyra's time traveling throughout Hades' entire existence. And honestly, I kind of get it, because like there are a few instances where Hades is like very angry and like not happy to see her, because it had been like millennium since he had last seen her. And I understand that as being like super frustrating. I get both sides. I get that it's like instantaneous for Lyra. She's like doing it. It's all happening like all at once for her. But for Hades to have it like happen a few times, like, you know, boom, 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 and then nothing for like thousands of years would piss me off, honestly. But it would also just make me question like everything.
I would feel gaslit too. Like, did I make this in my mind? Like, what is happening? How is this happening? Because also, just like in in the Time Traveler's Wife, here with time traveling, it's like shatters, like there's cracked, they're called time cracks, and they chase after her. So she doesn't know when she's going to be pulled away. So at the same time, Hades doesn't know these moments that he's having with this woman, not knowing their history, because also, if anybody's familiar with time traveling, you know, you can't, your future / present self can't change the past, because if you change the past, it changes and dictates what the future and present becomes. So there's a lot of dancing around that and a lot of questioning. How much can I divulge? And what if I am supposed to divulge this to get to where I am in the present / future? Because also, Laura, I know we've talked about this in like memory loss tropes, specifically Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. You aren't who you are without the past that you've had.
Yes. And something that is very interesting about this book, too, is that time resets. When Lyra dies, time resets. So Lyra has been doing the Tartarus locks for like ever. For so long.
Which is like the Titans are telling her hundreds of years. And again, time is in flux, something where when she's in one part of time travel history for a day, she's finding out that that's like a week plus. So other people have to continue, and I say people, other Titans and Boone have to keep moving along to try to complete these challenges and these locks, not knowing if she's going to come back, because we also know Hades is going through, different versions of Hades is going through the same thing, not knowing how many years it's going to be until he sees her again.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there comes a point where there are two Lyras. There's like present day Lyra, who is time traveling and in Tartarus. And then there's Lyra, who is with Hades going through book 1. Yes. And everything that is happening in book 1. And Hades falls in love with that version because that version doesn't leave him.
Yeah.
Which is like crazy, because they're all the same version.
It's all the same version, but she also, every action that she's making in this current present time, she's trying to also mirror what has already happened in the past because she knows that version, that book one version of Lyra, who is her present day, is who Hades is falling in love with. So she's also trying to ensure she stays that same person.
It's really, yeah, it's really confusing. It's really interesting. So, if you're wondering, like, are we going to get, like, really dive into this book? We're really, like, kind of not. We're really kind of not. Mostly because it is quite long, but also because, honestly, if you are reading this, then, like, you get it. Like, you get it.
You get it, but I feel like there is some whiplash. So, like, is this episode going to help you, like, settle some things out? Probably not. We're just kind of going with the vibes. But the vibes are good because I feel like, again, I think it's a testament to Abigail that one, she had this foresight for book 2, and started I'm assuming her editing, because when we spoke to her, we didn't even get a tease of what book she said she was working on book 2. Not once did I ever see this coming. And I asked you this before we started recording also, would there have been another way to tell book 2's story? Like, how would you approach the Titan storyline? How do you approach this if we're in a book 2 quote unquote travel book to explore getting out of Tartarus, to explore the end of the book? Would there have been another way?
I really don't know, because you need to tell the story of the Titans, and let's get into it. And the true story of the Titans that Abigail has created here is that Kronos and Rhea and their family was a loving family. They were all a little wary of Hades because he didn't know how to control his powers, and he was like killing things if he wasn't careful. But it was a loving family. There was a prophecy. Kronos defended Hades. He defended his family. He loved everybody. And Hades was like 19, and like Kronos still hadn't, like, there was nothing going on. And Lyra is like, so whatever happens like when they're in their like mid-20s, like that's, okay. We're going to be swallowed in our all right. Okay.
Because she's also going into this lore because she's been glamored also when she first gets to Tartarus, and Boone as well, understanding the lore the traditional lore that we know of the Titans. Kronos hated his kids. He felt threatened by his kids. They were going to supersede him in power. So therefore he was going to eat them. So that is the lore. And through Lyra's time traveling, and she's seeing these happy family moments, she's like, I don't think this is a guy who wants to eat his kids. I don't think the Titans are people who feel threatened by the next generation. They look like they're excited and they want to have like these familial aspects and integrated into their lives. But it took her seeing that with her own eyes.
And boy, did she, because she essentially haunts Hades throughout his entire life. And, I don't know how I would react to that, honestly. They meet for the first time when he is a baby. He is like a little child, and his relatives are coming to kill him because of that prophecy that is hanging over his head for his entire life. And Lyra takes him and, like kind of shields him from Uranus and I think Oceanus and
because Oceanus is the grandpa in this. I'm there's this whole new level of Greek mythology. I'm like, now I gotta go explore this part now, even though it's Abigail's lore.
And Kronos is like, leave my family alone. And he he murders Uranus and, outbursts Aphrodite, all of this stuff. Really interesting, fantastic stuff. But Hades meets Lyra as a baby, again as like a child, again as a teenager. And then, from 20s on, when he first gets his power and his like establishment in the underworld, when he's like really stressed about the wars, she sees him throughout all of these times and just adds to this poor man's stress. every time he sees her, every time Lyra pops into Hades' life, she is only there usually for a little bit. And she is just like, info, meet me here and tell me this, go over here and do this. And he has to take it on faith. And he gets to a point where he like can't anymore. And part of me like really understands that. But another part of me is like, dude, she's been telling you this whole time. She's been telling you this whole time what to do. You've been doing it. And just as you said earlier, she's never led him astray in anything that she said to him. So why can't you just control yourself and like not destroy the whole, world or whatever, but
burn the world to the ground, and I get it. I do get it. But it's interesting. It's like, cause he's also feeling threatened through this because he's like, you are this woman who keeps coming in and out of my life. I sense you're a goddess, but I've never heard of you before. And she's like, trust me. And then she inadvertently uses one of his powers against him, not intentionally, and asks him to confess like what's on his mind. Cause she can tell he's just like his thoughts. He's feeling his thoughts are really heavy. And once he confesses and then he wakes up from it all, he goes, wait a damn minute. That's my power. What can't you tell me? And this goes into the whole what you can and cannot share during time travel, because how that impacts the future / present. And so he uses his power because in this version of Hades, he still has his power. He uses it back on her. And all she can say through all of this is that I love you. She fights the actual confession. And that throws him for another loop because then she's gone again. And now he's sitting with this mysterious woman who's in and out of his life that he's been enamored with, just dropping this, I can't tell you a lot, but I could tell you you are everything, you're mine, I love you, and I am yours. And he's like, what the hell is that supposed to mean?
Which is such a great point, too, because the first time that Lyra, in the very beginning of the book, after Kronos throws Lyra into like the pit of Tartarus, and as she is falling, she's time traveling, and she time travels directly to Hades. And she sees him and she's like, oh my God, that was crazy. I guess I'm out. All right, cool beans. And she goes and she sees Hades and she kisses him and he is a little bit hesitant and he pushes her a little bit away and he goes, you've never kissed me before. And it's like, ba, 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 that's the plot. And you can see like everything kind of being like, what? And falling into place kind of for both of them. Because he is like, oh my God, you're my future Lyra. This is why a reread is really beneficial. Because he's like, you're my future Lyra. Your hair is long. And she's like, my hair. And it's like, she's like, damn, it is long. I'm your future Lyra. That's crazy. And then she's sucked away, which is kind of how it goes, like mostly throughout the book, that except when they're fucking and when he puts her in the jail cell. That's when she stays a little bit longer. Priorities, the banging.
Which like, good for them, because could you imagine mid-session and you're like, woo, woo. Because then it's also like, again, Time Traveler's Wife spoiler is when the wife gets pregnant and then the husband, because the husband's the time traveler, and he's like, what do you mean? She's like, I don't know. I love every version of you. So I cheated on you, kind of, with you. Like, it doesn't... But we're having a kid. I don't know. I'll have to tell this story 1,000,000 times because you don't know where you are in certain points. And that is also like a lot of emotional damage to have on somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. And Lyra doesn't really experience that because everything happens so fast for her. It's Hades. He's the one that is like really tortured by all of this.
And really, now that you say that, it's everybody else too, because again, we're in Lyra's POV a lot of this book. But then when she's sucked away during these time traveling moments, you also have Persephone, you also have Kronos, you have Rhea, you have Boone, you have all of these other people who are being impacted and having their own storylines happening at the same time. And their life has to continue to go on, even though she's been sucked away. I mean, Boone tried to complete one of the locks without her. And she's just like, I don't know why he didn't wait for me. Fair. But at the same time, she's, I feel after a certain amount of time, how it hasn't clicked that time operates differently when she's sucked away. Because by that time, she knows, but it's only been 24 hours. How many times has it been 24 hours where they were like, yeah, but it's been more than a week here?
How long has it been 24 hours? It's but again, everybody's under a lot of stress. Talking about torture too, having to be the Titans and to watch her do this and die over and over and over and over again is really something that is brought up, but it's more brought up as like a frustration of like, we have learned all the times that you've died to not do this. We've learned not to do this. They don't really talk about like how the emotional toll of watching this girl die for them over and over and over again is taking. The only one that really kind of acknowledges it, I think, is the little sliver, the little horcrux of Hades that is down in his lock. That is where all of the little pieces of souls of the gods in their locks, that's how they stay like powered, is little pieces of their soul. And if the god above feels like really big emotions, then the piece of soul in the lock does as well. And Hades obviously really reacts to Lyra, and he is like, look. And I really liked this plot point. I guess spoilers. She opens the locks, man. I mean, she does it. But towards the end of the book, our sliver of Hades from his lock gets, I think, a little creepy. And he's like, I don't care. Just die and then come back and I'll see you again. And like, keep dying. And like, we can still have, like, I can still see you. We can still have this. And he gets a little bit angry. He's like, you would leave me down here? Like a little bit desperate about it. And that's a little bit like those robot dogs where they start doing stuff and you're like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave. I'm just gonna go. I don't feel safe. That's kind of like the vibe that I got, because that's a little scary.
Yeah, if somebody's, because I'm such a nerd. Okay, so I know you've seen She's All That, and this isn't exactly it, but the point where there's the really drunk mean girls in the bathroom, and they're the makeup art students of the school, and they were telling Lainey, what would like let you live in infamy? Like, you're really good as an artist, but I think your art would live on if you killed yourself. If you killed yourself, you would be in infamy. And it was like really a selfish thing. And again, the 90s, when people really encouraged that. So it felt it did kind of, like I said, it's different, but there was a selfishness to it for Hades, because he's just like you said, he's desperate. And in this way, he'll always get to see her. And that's how he's viewing it as. And that was also her wake up call to be like, this is a lock. I'm gonna back away.
I'm gonna go. Because yeah, and I think that's like a really crazy part of this too. Because she has a lot of guilt around that. And there is this, just as you said, this threat, because okay, when Hades sends the tentacles down, I was so annoyed. It's like, what are you doing? Stop it. She has a plan. Just like, you're making it worse. Like, what are you actually doing though? Like, you're not thinking. And that's what really bothers me, because Hades is like, He's got a plan. Like he can like compartmentalize and go for it. And this like mad explosion of passion and just deranged anger is just like, get it together, my guy.
Hades has always been bigger picture in every part of the lore. So to see him acting emotionally and not logically, and it would have been different because, we get it, the quote unquote villain. No, it will always burn the world down. But he trusted and believed her for over a millennia.
And
Why
she told
now?
him not to. She told him not to.
And then there was the time that he had gone away and he came back and he's like, I did all these awful things. And she's like, this is such a win. You should be so happy. And he's like, I'm a monster. And she goes, no, you have never been able to control. And she was like, you controlled this. She's like, yes, you made that decision. You made these actions, but your power didn't take over you. You took over the power. Your power took control of it. And we're intentional. And that is a win. Yes. But like, that was also like an unnecessary evil that we needed to get to in order for the war to stop. But she's like, but you did it and not for a lack of control. So then to know that he goes complete, the extreme that he did, I was like, ooh, okay. One step forward, two steps back.
But also like, Lyra's probably like slay ego boost. Like
100%.
He said he would, and he did.
I thought that too. That's the part where I was like, I don't know. I think I've also always read about the people saying the villain will burn the world down, and the villain. I've never actually seen the world being burnt down, with the exception of Manacled. So that was like refreshing to see too, because they'll always say it, but I've never actually feel like I've read it.
$1 million pussy. Honestly, like the ego boost. But then
if I had that price tag on me, that would have been an ego boost alone.
For sure. There is a lot going on. Just talk to me about...
No, don't ask me to talk about anything. I feel mushy.
No, I know. I also feel mushy, but you can do this. I know you can. Talk to me about Persephone, female friendships, and then Persephone and Boone.
So Persephone female friendships. One, I, again, love Abigail's take on Persephone. I love the way that she also has Lyra admitting that she has to work through some jealousy, especially having to unlearn this lore that she's known of Persephone her entire life, and the relationship that Persephone and Hades has. And there, again, is a little bit of a threat, because we also know, because of the time traveling, you have Hades, just at the altar, basically, thinking Persephone is gone. And she has to get to a point. She's like, hey, so would it make you feel any better that she's not really dead? And he's like, why would you say that? She's like, you really got to wait at least 100 years for me, but she's alive. And he's like, what is going on? But Persephone is also the type of person who, she's down there. She's in Tartarus. She's down there with the Titans. So along with the Titans, she's also seeing so many different versions of Lyra trying to escape, not just escape Tartarus, like have freedom from Tartarus and allow for the other Titans to get out. So she's seen different iterations of her, but because of the time traveling aspect, Persephone is also like, I know we're going to be friends. Not only do I know we're going to be friends, we are going to be friends. And you have Lyra saying like, I don't know what I can say. Like, I can trust her, but I also know that she's calling me out on my shit. So she knows that I don't like her and I have a right to not like her. But it's this circle. And again, with the time traveling, you have Persephone and Boone, which I love the story because, again, Abigail wrote Persephone not as a love interest for Hades. And we find out in book 2 that this was just kind of the story that Demeter has shared with the public and shared with the other gods, because Demeter looked after her daughter, and again, in this world in a very different way, because Persephone's like, I want to do more than just plant flowers, and I have more freedom here in hell. And Demeter's like, well, we got to give the gods a story. You got to let me come up with something. So they concocted, they leaned into Hades as the villain. They leaned into this storyline. They leaned into this public perception. So Persephone could have the freedom that she had with Hades. And again, at a very non-romantic level. So then, and you have Persephone in Tartarus. You have the time cracks going on. And she is going back and forth through these time cracks, which also aligns with some of the, with some of the robbing challenges. I don't want to say challenges. What would they call them? Like, scores?
Jobs.
Yeah, jobs that Boone was going through, and he would keep seeing these shadow figures, and he was just so intrigued. He's like, man, someone got one on me. Like, I can't believe this person. And so he was just intrigued by this person. All for it to find out during one of the lock challenges that Lyra and Boone were like repeating over and over again. And that's when he goes, oh my gosh, she's been on my job. She's been getting one over on me the longest time. And Lyra was like, oh my God, that's Persephone. And that opened up a whole different storyline. And it allowed Boone to be intrigued by Persephone. That opens up Persephone. And again, Lyra's relationship, she's like, Boone likes you. He's not, she's like, he won't talk to me. It's the girlhood. Like, how do I proceed? Like, how do I do this? Like, can you help me? He's your best friend. I don't know how to move forward with this.
And last big question, Jessica Marie, talk to me about the relationship between Lyra and Kronos.
The one that I love. Okay, so like, we live with daddy issues situation and story of my life, but because Kronos and the Titans and everybody have seen all the different iterations and time jumps that Lyra has been going through, they also know that there's a version of Lyra. You know what, like talking this out, it kind of reminds me of, Doctor Strange and like the multiverse, and he's like seeing all the different versions and all the different past, presents, and futures. And they see, and it's even shared in the book, different lives that Lyra has had. She's like, I've been a teacher, I've been a doctor, I've been, I have overdosed, I've had, but in every single version, my parents have never loved me. They've always gave me up. They never really wanted me. They couldn't wait to get rid of me. And Kronos has really unintentionally, I don't think he's always been, again, because we're learning this, that he's not the person who wants to eat his children. He has looked at Lyra as a daughter, not just like a daughter-in-law, not just as somebody that his son has married, but really took her became very protective of her, wanted to give her different experiences that she always wished that she would have with her father or a father figure. And she unintentionally, they just had a natural father-daughter relationship that grew over time, that grew with trust. That ultimately ended with Kronos sacrificing himself for her, and even said, like, it's kind of one of the purest forms of love that the parent should always be the one sacrificing. You shouldn't have to, a child shouldn't be going through this because of parents. And I think it was a beautiful thing. I definitely teared up a little bit because, again, sensitive hearer, with any type of relationship that surrounds that, because she also gains that with Rhea, and like understanding that Rhea's love of her life, Kronos, sacrificed himself, and she's also passing, because Kronos was the god of time, and that's been passed on to Lyra as well. So now she's a goddess of glamour and time.
And that, see, Jess, you just did this so perfectly, of course. Coming full circle here, I am the bad wolf. I create myself. I put the pieces out there into the world so that I can be here. That is what she does. Because after the lock is open, after the gates are open, after Kronos is dead, everybody's out of there. The time shards all come together, and Lyra's up there all stretched out like, Rick, right, all up there like that in, the prison with all the Ricks. And she all the time comes into her, and it's like this whole thing. And she's like, oh, shit, I did it all to myself. That's crazy. And the things that I really thought were interesting too is that Boone also is trying to make Lyra's life better throughout his time cracks as well. Because after Lyra gains this ability, after she becomes the goddess of time, after the cracks are sealed, she still goes through a couple, and she realizes that she travels to the moment that her parents are about to, her mom's about to give birth to her, and she's watching Zeus watch her parents, and she's like, oh my God, this is the moment that like Zeus is going to curse us. And she looks at Zeus, and Zeus's brain is mush. Zeus's brain is complete and utter mush. Zeus is being controlled by somebody. He has been controlled by somebody very powerful for a very long time, and the damage is extensive. So it is easy for Lyra, then, a very new goddess of time, to tell Zeus to curse her. So Lyra is responsible for her own curse. She's responsible for her own upbringing, her own living conditions, everything. Now, I say living conditions. Boone is responsible for that. She sees Boone go to her parents and threaten the fuck out of them and be like, give her up at 3, give her to the Thieves Guild. You don't deserve her, you pieces of shit.
I love Boone as a character. I think it's important to show. And again, I know there's going to be a lot of people who don't believe this, but it is possible to have like girl and guy friends, strictly platonic, really in that familial space, who are so protective of each other. And again, because we've seen in different timelines that her parents were always going to abandon her. There was even a challenge that she's supposed to save her mother. And she's like, you got to be fucking kidding me. Are you like, after she's already seen different versions of like, oh my gosh, do they actually love me? Oh my gosh, this is what everybody always wants. And then when, again, in one of those challenges, this fake version of her mother was just like, I cannot wait to get rid of you. And she's like, great, what I always wanted to hear. So she like finally understood that her parents were always going to be like, some people just have shitty parents, and she got that shit end of the stick there. And she's like, I can't do this. Don't ask me to do another challenge like this. I'm just going to knock her out so I can, you know, put the emotion aside for a hot second and do what I need to do, because I cannot hear this bitch anymore. And I like that Boone didn't judge her for that either. Like, I think it's refreshing when there are people who know the background from your family and the type of people that you have and accept all of you. And when you're so different from all of them, they're like, how you turned out like this when you're dealing with all of that? Go for it. You know, that's my best friend.
So we've touched on like a lot of what is going on in this book. Obviously, it'll make much more sense if you've read it. But I really love this ending with all of the gods of death. We've met all of the gods of death before. We've had glamours taken off, glamours put back on, glamours taken off. But Anubis is there. I love obviously, hello, hyperfixation. Hello. Nice to see you, sir. He's there, and he has his like crook, you know, he's there, and he is judging the absolute fuck out of Hades, because through shenanigans and power transfer and deep time travel rewinding, we have kind of gotten it. So the gates are sealed in Tartarus, but everybody that was in Tartarus is outside of Tartarus. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Also, one of the end chapters is basically just them fucking, which, you know, good for them.
Honestly, it's maybe there was like 2 spicy scenes, but it was refreshing to have a fantasy book that was recommended to us where it was mostly plot.
Yeah, like all plot, all politics. Yeah, super fun. So at the end of this, through shenanigans, Hades has essentially fulfilled his prophecy and leveled Olympus. He's leveled everything. He was going to destroy Tartarus. He was out of his mind with rage, uncontrollable. If he could do this for love, he could do this for another reason. He needs to be stopped. Anubis weighs him, or, you know, weighs his heart against the feather. And obviously it's heavy. It's too heavy. So he is then not killed, but stripped of his godhood, of his immortality, has to live life as a mortal. Very common punishment, I feel like, because it sucks. Because it sucks. Like, you know, if I was a god and you made me immortal, I would be like, are you fucking kidding me? Just kill me.
I'd be so so mad. I would not
kill me.
be a good god to mortal.
Oh,
I'd be insufferable. I'd be insufferable either way. I think I could adjust from mortal to god I wouldn't be like, oh my god. I know it's like
that's easy.
Yeah, it's like it's like with Vampire Diaries, right? And everybody's like, oh my god, I really didn't want to be a vampire. And Caroline's like, I love being a vampire. I'm on that baddie shit. She loved it. And that would be like us being a god. You're going to tell me I'd be a god? I'd be like, what can't I do? Give me the rules up front. I don't want to learn along the way. So then I could have
I need to know.
real fun, right?
Yeah. I don't want to commit crime right away.
Let me know the rules so that I could so I could understand the loopholes.
Yeah, for sure. I'd rather just have death. So it is interesting.
Well, he's immortal, so that can happen now.
No, because he's like calm about it. He's like, don't worry, baby. I got myself a plan. It's like, you gotta go. Now the tables are reversed and now you have God Lyra having to watch mortal Hades earn his godhood through trials. I have to assume that is what book 3 is going to be because that's the way it's set up here. But I just want to say again that I love the inclusion of all cultures, gods of death. I just love that. I think it's just such a fantastic touch. I think that it quite easily could not have been a thing. It quite easily just could have not. It could have just been, keep it closed circle with all of the original Greek gods. But to include everybody was just a wonderful touch. And also, when I have a little bit of time, I wrote down some of the names. So I'm going to go through and research a few of the ones that I was a little bit unfamiliar with, because I like to learn, and that was interesting as well. And that is just a credit, of course, to the author Abigail Owen. But very, very fun at the end of this with mortal Hades who has a plan. But I'll be goddamned. Just talk to me a little about the epilogue.
The epilogue we have in quote unquote Deceiva's POV. That's the voice that said. And we learn that this person is the one who's been glamoring everybody. She's been looking from, I say she, because Deceiva, a name, and our narrator, we did this through audio also. She has been the one who's glamoring. She has been the one who positioned basically everybody's beliefs against the Titans. And now we're in this state of where she's like, where do we go from here? Because now I need to befriend Lyra. Because Lyra, and she's like, that's so sad. Because I really liked her, but now I'm going to approach it and be like, oh my gosh, we're besties, we're best friends. I'm going to lure her in with false sisterhood.
Yeah, I'm going to be the sister she didn't know she needed. I'm going to be her best friend. I'll be her rock. I'll be her everything. That will be interesting. What is that? What is that going to be about? Are we going to have female betrayal? That's just nuts. And it was also, she's also this person saying that Hades isn't a threat anymore. He should have been killed at birth, but now, I don't need to worry about his glamours or anything because he's in he's not of any consequence now that he's immortal. I feel like that will come back and bite her in the ass. I feel like he's going to figure something out, just be like, but we will see.
But it's going to take all of book 3. It's not going to be at the beginning of book 3 or the middle of it because we really got to set that up. Yeah. Did you have a favorite scene or a favorite? Yeah. Did you have a favorite? I was going to say favorite scene or favorite storyline, but it was really 2 heavy plots.
Yeah, it was 2 heavy plots. I think in general, I really liked this depiction of the Titans. Mm-hmm. I do not have any sort of preconceived notions when it comes to the Titans other than that, I don't know shit about them. I don't know their background. I don't know their story. I know their names and I know that they are gone. And from them, we get the more popular Greek gods that everybody knows and loves, like that's kind of how it is. There are these like entities in the back that everybody is kind of like hush hush about. So to interact with them and to have them as like fully fleshed out characters, I thought was very interesting. And to have the narrator pronounce these names so perfectly was also great, because I struggle a little bit when they are a little bit more complicated like that. That was wonderful. So I was able to say them out loud and not feel like I was dumb, because again, with the time travel, that first read through, I was just like, wow, I'm a little overwhelmed with everything. I'm not quite sure how all of this is going to slot together. So it really took me that second read to do that. So again, I just want to take a second to tip my hat to you, Jessica Marie, who did this all in one read.
I don't know. I was so scared. I was telling you, I was like, I'm nervous for this week. I'm nervous to record. I'm so scared. Don't ask me anything. I don't know what I'm going to be able to contribute to this conversation. So I also have to thank you for like tailoring this to me, I feel, because I don't feel like, I think on paper, it can be hard. And you did this over 2 times. You wrote notes. I can't imagine. Send me pictures after, because I want to see those notes and the arrows. And was there a timeline? Because I know editor Sam created his own timeline when it came to Game of Thrones. Yeah. And I mean, yes to everything you said. I completely back it, because I do love learning about the Titans more. I love the inclusivity of the other gods. It also makes me feel like it wasn't just mentions of other gods. They were actually involved in some of the conversations that were happening. So it just feels inevitable at some point that this could open up to not just plots and stories within Greek gods, but exploring other mythologies, and it's still being part of this Crucible world that Abigail has created.
And we are all about that on ACOFAE Podcast. We love to explore.
We love to explore. We love to collect all of these stories. It's just all super fun. But with that being said, feel free to follow us on Instagram. We're at ACOFAE Podcast. We're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Bye.